Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Then and Now podcast. I am your co-host, Captain Diesel, and I am joined with the usual suspects, Professor E, King of the Comic, Ethan Murphy, and Lelouch V, aka the Big Black Muffin. How are you guys doing, my fellow brothers?
Annoyed that you keep calling us suspects. That is a very negative connotation towards white people.
off rip. I'm good, man. I'm good. It is Saturday. I know we're getting breaking the whole illusion of time and space. It is Saturday. Been a long week, but a good week. So yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, y'all. Let's go and get into the first topic today. This is something that I found relatively interesting, especially since the fact that we cover anime a lot on this channel. And we, as Black people, obviously talk about a lot of our places or lack thereof within the medium itself. There has been some recent news and developments within the last week that has had the internet in uproar, specifically the Black side of the internet in uproar in regards to Crunchyroll and who they choose to support, give money to, and vice versa. Crunchyroll, and you know what? Before I explain it, I have a video here of a content creator that broke the situation down a little bit more in depth than I could, like a minute. We'll go through that first. Oh, wait. Here we go.
Anime fans are upset because Crunchyroll is reportedly switching to an Israeli software for its subtitles. So this was reported yesterday, and apparently they're switching from AG Sub to an Israeli software known as Una. But what's really crazy is that Una is actually being used by Netflix and Warner Brothers. They actually have a whole client list. As you can see, there's big companies out there: Universal, Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount.
Now, I want everyone to keep in mind, this is not confirmed, but if this is true, a lot of people are going to be upset over this. Most common type of comment I've seen online about this topic is if it's true, they're going to unsubscribe from Crunchyroll and turn back to piracy. Speaking of piracy, this person made an interesting comment. This person's actually glad they're partnering up with this Una software because if that happens, no one will find out about illegal websites. Now, when it comes to the details regarding the partnership between Crunchyroll and Una, this is what I found. They're apparently an unfunded company, so Crunchyroll isn't paying for their services. So apparently, even if you boycott Crunchyroll, you're just making them lose money, not the software company. I guess we gotta wait and see until we get confirmation, but what do you guys think of this? Let me know in the comments below.
So that's essentially the situation in a nutshell. You're hearing a lot of different people talk about, oh, I've seen more memes than anything else. I don't know how aggressively serious. I think some people have been more serious about the boycott of Crunchyroll and not utilizing the application anymore. I'm feeling other people already not use it because they just don't like the way the UI is. Anyway, which honestly I feel like Netflix is going to overtake Crunchyroll in the next couple of years. It's like the big anime platform anyway in America. But before we get into any of that increasingly extra detail, what are your initial thoughts and reactions to this?
People are annoyed that they switch subtitle services, so they're going to start stealing from the anime community. So instead of seeing more anime, we're going to see less because you want to pirate things. Why?
Yeah.
What does that fix?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
This isn't
assume
a
you
solution.
guys are you guys up to date on the Israel Palestine situation that's been going on like for the last couple of years?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But that
the way
again,
that
that doesn't.
the way that it's being spun is that because Crunchyroll is doing business with this Israel-based company, that they are inherently supporting and putting money into the pockets of this company, therefore supporting Israel within this oppression they have on Palestine and all the murder they've been kind of going through there. So it's kind of being seen as a situation under that nature. So they're just like fuck Crunchyroll and the platform as a whole.
I mean, if what he said was true, then it should be fuck Crunchyroll, fuck Netflix, fuck Warner Brothers, fuck everything. So I mean, why the selective outrage?
That's what I'm like. It's like, yeah. Do you realize how everything is fucked? It's a drawing different lines in the sand about what you're upset about. Like Otis also said, say, well, I don't like this. I'm not going to support you. Therefore, I'm going to steal and not pay a service to support the actual people making the anime that I like. That's not helping anybody either. People lose their minds over how people at MAPPA are being treated and underpaid. You realize if the animes that are being made don't have a platform to be put on, they lose even more money, get paid even less, if that's even possible. So focusing your outrage in this manner, I get that you're upset because they're essentially supporting one side of the war. I get that. It's
I
just
mean,
trying to
America
understand
supports
that
both
these things are
sides of the war all the time on a
nonstop,
daily
nonstop,
basis.
nonstop.
I think
It's
this kind of
nothing's
this
changed.
kind of goes back into the conversation we had previously around around word to mouth and like I guess the both sides of it, because I feel like this is one of those situations where people are getting snippets of information and a certain narrative and running with that narrative because it fits their moral standing and their moral high ground in regards to obviously most, at least I agree myself, I would like as fuck Israel for the most part, as long as this shit is still going with them murdering these children and whatnot in Palestine. But me going about taking action that isn't going to benefit the situation does nothing to assist the situation. If that makes any sense. It really pains me to see situations like this where people are getting a snippet and not going to do further information to look up further information. Because to your point, if other platforms are using this, which I think if you're mad about anything in this situation, you can be more mad about the fact that people that were initially getting paid to create subtitles for these shows are now losing jobs. That's maybe the biggest gripe that I have here is that they're not paying people to actually do this thing now, and then we even have even further issues. And some niggas argue about certain translation things because you know how some people will talk about, well, this happened or this character meant to say this in translation and it was messed up or whatever it may be because of a dub or a sub. Now that creates some of those issues, but in regards to the whole Palestine issue, I just find that very interesting in how people can hear a snippet of information and just take off with it without second guessing it or fact checking anything. Now, again, to our point, to make sure we're being honest here, we haven't done any extra additional fact checking ourselves to see what companies, because I'd assume most streaming companies are utilizing this software or software similar to this. Are they all, exactly UNA in relation to Israel? I'm not sure. But I know for a fact that if a company is they're saving this much money having AI do this particular task, I doubt that there are other companies that are just still paying this physical labor out of this thing out of the goodness of their heart. They're probably switching over to this to save that money.
Yeah, and let's be clear. I guarantee you, Crunchyroll doesn't care one way or the other about the war at all. Correct me if I'm wrong. What they care about is saving money. It's a business move. Same thing as most likely with Warner Brothers or anybody else they mentioned. It's business. They're trying to save as much money as possible. They don't really care. It's at the end of the day, the biggest warlord is money. So trying to look at things from the point of view as far as like, oh, we're choosing sides, not so much. They never choose sides. They don't care. They don't care about any of that stuff. All they care about is making money.
Now, that does lead me into the question of should companies like this take sides? Because especially when we're looking at something that may hit more closer to home to us, when we had the situation with George Floyd or anything to do with BLM, we saw particular companies, at least give public show of support and some not give a fuck. Even more recently, we've had Target been boycotted by Black people for the longest time because of the bullshit they were doing as far as some of their lack of support of Black people and things of that nature politically. Do you feel like companies should one way or the other make a stand? Because obviously it's going to boost your sales in one way or the other. You're going to have people on one side obviously say fuck your company and everyone to support it, and then on the other side you're going to have a boom from people on the other side of the situation going to support that thing. I think the recent shit with Sydney Sweeney and was it American Eagle or whatever, I can't remember which gene company it was. That was a whole thing where they lost a shit ton of money from Black people, but they got that shit back in all the conservative people going to buy
they made more money. Yeah, they gained
right.
money.
So it's kind of a 50-50 thing, but you're starting to see some companies kind of use that as a thing where they're starting to make stands to boost sales and revenue if they've been stagnated for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going real quick off what you said with Sydney Sweeney and the whole gene stuff. The whole idea of bad publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Essentially, if you can find a way to get people get eyes on your product, and the company makes money off it, they're fine. They don't really care. Also, I literally saw a report where the guy that did the marketing campaign knew it was going to get really weird and controversial, and they did it on purpose because they knew it was going to get them more money, more revenue. They don't really care. If you're having it where, like you're saying before with the BLM, or having a company deliberately openly take a stand on a political issue, it oftentimes, more often than not, can backfire. Even if you do have someone on your side, it can very easily it can very easily have a cause a divide. You never know what kind of audience you truly have, and it can upset people. It's very easy. So people oftentimes try not to be too political, but then again, you have things like Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel's show, obviously, it blew up after he got more or less canceled by Donald Trump or ABC because of Donald Trump and everything for a week. He came back and his numbers are now bigger than ever. He's a full blown he's an op for Donald Trump and everything. So it's hard to really say what the right course of action is for a company when it comes to stances, but usually it's going to upset somebody one way or the other. Just how it is.
Otis, I've seen you post about this, and we've had conversations about specifically J.K. Rowling a few times. And one, you already just don't like Harry Potter like that to begin with, but a big portion of your disdain for the IP and itself is not putting money in her pocket. Do you tend to have that same attitude towards a conglomerate, like a company, in regards to who you'll buy from, depending on the politics they engage in, or are you kind of just like, it is what it is?
Yeah, I mean, as a consumer, I pick and choose where I spend my money all the time. Like, I mean, I don't buy from Chick-fil-A. You won't catch me with Calvin Klein. You're never going to see me with a bottle of Hennessy. I mean, on a consumer basis, I mean, those are decisions that you have to make based off of your own morality, what you deem is important. Most people don't care enough. They just, they have things that they like. They don't care about the person that actually made it, so they're just going to consume it. You can see that from all the people that are still fans of Diddy and R. Kelly and so on and so forth. From a business perspective, I mean, it's all about branding. I mean, if it's in your brand to speak on or participate in certain political conversations, then be prepared that on one side you may gain allies, on the other side you may gain a lot of enemies. It's really just comes down to the people that are in charge and what decisions they choose to make there. But I mean, me personally, I mean, it just, there's a lot to that, right? Like in this situation particularly, of course I do not support Israel in the slightest, but I do support the creators in Japan that are making these anime that revolutionize the way that we look at storytelling. So I mean, am I going to choose to start pirating those and then start essentially stealing from the creators that I want to support and continue to build on? No, that just doesn't make any sense to me. But maybe finding other platforms that also have that same content might be an option that I try to lean into. That's a little bit more difficult because I mean, the only platforms that really have that stuff consistently are also on the list. So
yes, I saw. Yeah. It's like Otis is saying, man. It's almost inescapable. If you think you can ever escape corruption, yeah, I have bad news for you, my friend. Real bad news for you. And biggest concern, we're all artists here. All of us are. My biggest concern is, of course, the little guy. People who work countless hours, who literally sleep in their office and different animation studios in Japan, trying to make these products, and they do it because they love to do so. And for us to go out of our way to deliberately not help them, not support them, that bothers me. I get the idea that, of course, Israel, oh my God, that's terrible. That's crazy. That's bad. But it's finding a way to, if you can, like Otis said, if you can find a way to support those you want to without supporting those you don't, that's the ideal scenario. But oftentimes it's not that simple.
Yeah, it's very, very rarely black and white because, again, you don't know where any business is really getting their money from and where they're putting that money after they get it. Like you can track so much of what they decide to put in the media, but unless you can look at their actual transactions on a day-to-day basis, you have no idea what's going on there.
I will say a lot of that is a lot easier to track now than anything else because a lot of the way they move is a lot of this stuff is public information. People just don't think to go look for it.
So
like something as simple as this for like the Una thing, where like you could track all these other companies and their association with this is just not publicized. Like it has to be publicly published because it's a public fund. It's a company that they have
The
to have the
publicly traded
records for how.
company.
Yeah, they have to have their
Right,
stuff
but
publicly,
the
For
but
like the
they
miles and miles of privately owned companies that don't have to put their records out, you'll never
Mhm.
know.
but also
exactly
what the
how those
records are, like I'm sure you guys probably know about with the Olympic Committee, for example, right? How Olympic athletes get paid nothing to compete in sports, right?
Right.
And national competition. So but the Olympics make all kinds of billions and millions of dollars, right, every year. And if you look at it, it's like, well, how can they not afford to pay these athletes even a tenth of the money they're making? The Olympics make, and they have they break down as far as for public records what they do, and they basically have like a charge or some kind of money that just says more or less almost like miscellaneous funds essentially. So big Fortune 500 companies pretty much will just say this amount of money, this X amount of money for millions and billions of dollars right here every year. We're just calling it services fees or what have you. So they can always find a way to not actually list out what they're actually spending the money on.
The
Yeah,
thing I would
yeah.
go ahead.
It was like, we live in America, right? Like the day before 9/11, they announced they lost like trillions of dollars. Like truly
Trillions.
actually tracking
Trillions.
where money is going accurately and honestly,
Yeah,
it happens a lot less often than you may think.
that's not good.
The question I would then ask the public, because to make sure that I'm not downplaying the idea of a boycott, because people and where they spend their money and what we decide to boycott is a very powerful tool. We've seen it in a million different instances where people actually, for the bewilderment of anybody else, be able to unify on a unified goal of boycotting a particular thing, and that company has to make immediate changes. I think more recently with what game was? I think it was Portal 2. It was either Portal, it was some game that recently debuted, and the owner got on stage at the Game Awards and he was trying to be funny and wore not a Make America Great Again hat, but a Make Gaming Great Again hat, and tried to be funny about the shit, and tanked the sales of the game. And they had to and the only other thing they had to announce was a battle royale in that game. People were initially excited for the game. As soon as he did that bullshit, he killed all the business that he fucking had going forward. Because people just were just like, yeah, we're not going with that bullshit. We see even more recently with the Xbox Game Pass thing, where as soon as they raised that price even more so, you saw like the site crash with the amount of people that were going to unsubscribe from Game Pass.
They died
Because they killed that. My question for people would be, what are you willing to sacrifice? And in that, I want to give more clarity on, it's easy for people to boycott or not support something when it's convenient for them and it doesn't interrupt your daily life. When something like a Crunchyroll happens, right, and you are looking forward to boycotting that thing or not consuming that thing, are you willing to be uncomfortable? Because 9 times out of 10, if you're going to be consistent and ban and boycott anyone that does any kind of business with Una, as we just saw, you're going to have to boycott and ban pretty much every significant platform there is to make anime. And granted, they may be okay. I don't know. I'd be interested to see like the percentage of income that animation studios get from, or these platforms get from America. I feel like they have enough money from the rest of the world to supplement them continuing to make that thing, to make the excuse there. But in any other, let's say it's another medium, like, I don't know, a show, anything to do with Marvel, like the MCU, for instance, or like DC, anything to do with comic books, for instance, right? Well, even that's not a fucking good example. I guess in this hypothetical situation, imagine there's this product, right? That if you boycott this thing will no longer exist, period. And that's something that's going to be an inconvenience for someone's daily life, to where it's easy to boycott this thing because you have other things to go fall back on because it doesn't interrupt your life. But let's say, for example, if you had to boycott gaming in general, you have to boycott all gaming systems. That's something that's very significant to people's day-to-day life, that they play the game or they're a part of this world. Are you willing to boycott and not take part in something that's actually meaningful to you to get your point across, or for the sake of what you believe in?
Yeah,
because we've seen it happen in the past with something like the civil rights movement, where they were able, like, for their rights, they were like, yeah, we're not going to go for this shit. We will interrupt the flow of our daily life to make sure that we have a better tomorrow. I feel like there are a lot of people today that won't do it for the certain cause, for the right cause, for when it comes to like civil rights. Yes, I think people are willing to do that. But for stuff like this, I don't think niggas, when it comes to push comes to shove, I don't think they're actually willing to not watch anime just because they want to sit on that stake. Especially when it's continuing to be made to where
right.
you know One Piece is going to keep coming out, but you're just not going to watch it because of what you stand.
Right, I got you. So to piggyback directly off of that, as far as boycotting or people willing to give up for it, again with Jimmy Kimmel, I'm sure you all know how they literally in a week Disney lost, I think it was 4.8. What was it like? What was the amount, Otis? That was like 4.8 or 4.9 billion
Come on, right now.
dollars because
Mhm.
people were canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions, canceling their Disney trips, canceling the Disney cruises,
Mhm.
all directly because Jimmy Kimmel at the time it seemed like he was essentially fired. His show was shut down, his
Mhm.
crew was laid off, and kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
he was
that
silenced, yeah.
boycott, that's basically that there's a boycott of sorts. People boycotting Disney. By the way, these are hardcore Disney fans that gave up their trip to Disney, gave up their Disney membership. I guarantee you they weren't happy about it, but they were more upset about the politics with Trump and everything else. So yeah,
Mhm.
there are people out there that will give up things. There are people that, of course, I guarantee you, if this thing does happen with Crunchyroll, there are people in the U.S. that, of course, are dealing with the ramifications of the Palestine Israel or Israel whatever that war Israel and Palestine. So it's yeah, there are people who are affected by these things all the time who will definitely take the stuff to heart, who will definitely boycott things, who will definitely take a stance against. I mean, we see all kinds of uh, people doing this stuff now. It happens. People want to be active. They want to be political, 100%. As far as me, what I would give up to answer your question directly, what I give up, the Crunchyroll or I don't know. My favorite thing, y'all know my thing above all else. Otis and I both love rice and chicken to pieces and ribs. That's my thing. What I give up, say, my favorite rib joint, if I found out the guy in there was, was doing some horrible stuff to people, sure, I would. Yeah, take a stance. I love Rurouni Kenshin, Samurai X. One of the
Mhm.
first animes I watched with my brother back in the day was Samurai X, the OG Samurai X. Those the two.
Before we found out about the
Yeah, this
yeah,
stuff he was doing,
yeah.
and I know that it's kind of it's a different situation because of in Japan at the time, the laws were a little different for it as far as you way you perceived minors and everything else. But still, it's I personally cannot
Mhm.
read that manga or watch that anime anymore. And my brother loved it to pieces, and it's like it hurts because he directly made it. So it's like I have to, in my own sense, I have to boycott some I love. So it happens.
Mhm. Yeah. Thus far, I don't think they're. I think Harry Potter is always the interesting one for me, just because from like especially going through college, I've met so many people of the LGBTQIA plus community and trans people and other people that relate to that community group that are somewhat harmed by a lot of the stuff that J.K. Rowling had to say. But that series and that franchise means so much to that community. And I honestly would want to like break down like why people love that so much, why that's so ingrained with them. But
I don't get it personally.
I'm so confused on it. But someone like that, if they don't boycott something like that, and the creator is like intrinsically against your beliefs, or to even to Otis's point with like Chick-fil-A, I know a million gay people that still say the chicken ain't gay, so I'm still gonna eat this. So like,
I've gone there with my gay friend, multiple times.
yeah, it's interesting like when people choose to care about things. Obviously, if it's something that approaches
Selective
on like your
outrage.
selective outrage,
It
I
is,
don't
yeah. It's like
know.
it's selective outrage. That's the name of this. Please make sure you put that on the actual thumbnail.
Yeah. So I don't know. This was an episode that was again, it was a little bit out there.
Yeah,
I personally
this is a
felt
great topic, but like I I understand people being upset about this because it is a shitty situation. But like, look, like there are so many shitty ones happening on a daily basis across the planet. Like,
Yeah, this is barely a
put the
drop in the
same
bucket.
energy that you got into that into everything else.
Yeah.
Like, really dive deep into like, man, how do all these grocery stores get all this fruit year round? How does Walmart get these T-shirts at this level of price?
$1.
Like, like there's so many things.
mm-hmm.
It's not good news. It's not good news.
Yeah. So
Like, how
again, y'all
do
let us
so
know.
many knockoffs of top tier brands come out so often that are really close to that brand, but it's like it's a knockoff, right? Supposedly,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. There is. This is a very deep rabbit hole.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yeah. We are
I
barely
mean,
touching the surface.
I do appreciate people caring about this sincerely.
Mhm.
Like I think that is a good
Sure.
thing that people looked into this enough that they know at least this baseline thing. But I guarantee you, if somebody goes through their bank statement and looks into all the businesses that they contribute to on a weekly basis, you'll find a lot of shit that you don't want to find.
I agree.
I guarantee it.
I think that's my biggest point as well, is if you're going to be upset about this, make sure you're upset about everything else that you're apparently supporting. And
I don't know what you can be.
I will say that, yeah, to that point, to your point, Ethan, I think it's impossible to do it for everything. But at least in regards to that particular topic, if you're going to boycott anything that's supportive of Israel, like for me, if some shit is anti-black, I'm not gonna fuck with it for the most part. Like if you're taking an active hand and making sure that me as an individual and my people don't have rights or aren't allowed to do different things, I'm not gonna fuck with it. Personally, that's where I place things on my moral totem pole the highest for me. And again, there could be somewhat of an issue in regards to, you know, people looking at it from a standpoint of things only being important when it comes to your door. But I try to be like that with anything that takes away or actively encroaching on people's rights. I try to not take part in. But again, even with that, it's impossible to do so because there's so many different companies that do that you're not aware of. So,
and then also just keep in mind too, like, I mean, when you're boycotting, it's never the person at the top that actually made those decisions that gets hit the hardest by this.
That's what I'm saying. It's the little people. Yeah. Yeah, we had a guest on, I can't remember his name, it's a couple of years ago. We had a guest who actually did no. It was the guest who worked on the Hogwarts Academy.
Yeah,
That's Ben
Olivius. Yeah.
His name was Ben. Okay, I can't remember his name. Sorry. Yeah. And he made it clear to us. He goes, yes, we actually, all of us that worked on this game, we got paid. We all got paid for this ourselves. So essentially, if you were buying the game, the royalties are not going to us; they're going somewhere else. So he almost was saying, like, you have to buy the game.
You're good. You can boycott it now because
you ain't gonna buy the game. You ain't gonna buy the game. We're fine. We're all good. That's what he was saying. But yeah, there are situations like that.
I'll tell you. Again, if you guys feel differently or you agree with this, let us know in the comment section below. This has been, again, a very interesting particular episode of the In and Out Podcast. But if you want to hear us talk about more things like this, let us know in the comment section below. If you guys want to find where you can find us, you can look no further than the description below in the video, where we have all our social media pages and things of that nature linked in there. Or just, do us a favor and comment here. But again, this has been another episode of the In and Out Podcast. Do you guys have any, closing remarks before we get about here?
Yeah. Let's do your research. Honestly, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and and my heart goes out to you when you find that's where the worst thing, the loss of innocence, when you find these things out, it's like, oh, what a rough time.
It's sad, man. Yeah. But again, this has been another episode of the In and Out Podcast, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Sorry for the bummer episode, y'all. It's a bummer episode.